The world outside the bookstore was chaos. The infected spilled onto the streets, their broken bodies lurching, howling into the night. But Freyan barely noticed them. Her only thought was Becky. The girl sprinted beside her, fast, so fast for a human, but not fast enough to outrun what was coming. Freyan grabbed her hand without thinking, squeezing tightly, tugging Becky into the narrow, winding alleyways between the dead buildings. "Where are we going?" Becky panted, her voice barely a whisper. Freyan didn't answer. She just pulled harder. Adrenaline pumped through her veins, but beneath it, beneath the desperation, was something darker. Something hotter. Every time Becky stumbled and fell against her, every time their bodies collided in frantic motion, Freyan's control chipped away, tiny pieces at a time. They reached a crumbling side building, something that might have once been an apartment complex. The front doors were long gone, shattered inward. Inside, darkness yawned. Freyan didn't hesitate. She shoved Becky inside ahead of her, spun, and yanked a collapsed metal gate down behind them. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would buy them a few minutes. Enough time to catch their breath. Or enough time to lose it entirely. The inside of the building was pitch black. Dust floated in the thin slivers of moonlight breaking through the cracked ceiling. Molten rot perfumed the air. Freyan's heart thundered against her ribs. Becky turned, pressed against her chest in the dark, clinging. Their bodies slotted together perfectly, like they were carved from the same desperate, hungry piece of the universe. For a long moment, they just breathed, feeling each other, alive, warm, real. Then Freyan's hand slid around Becky's waist, anchoring her. Her thumb brushed bare skin where Becky's shirt had ridden up, soft, warm, alive, and Freyan's mind short-circuited. "You okay?" she rasped. Becky nodded against her neck. But she didn't let go. Neither did Freyan. They were trapped together in a darkness so thick it felt almost intimate, their breathing ragged, mingling. The walls seemed to close in around them. The air got thicker, hotter. Their hands found each other without thinking, fingertips grazing, palms pressing, nails scraping lightly against cloth. Freyan's body betrayed her. Every instinct, every monstrous, selfish instinct, screamed at her to pull Becky closer, to taste her, to claim her. "You can't," her mind hissed. "You have to." The two voices tore at her. And Becky, oh, Becky wasn't helping. Because Becky was trembling, not with fear, but with something else. Something that made her press even closer, that made her mouth brush accidentally, agonizingly, against the skin of Freyan's throat. Freyan let out a broken sound, part growl, part plea. Becky stilled. Lifted her head. Their faces were so close that Freyan could feel the "Freyan," Becky whispered, her voice cracked, wrecked, so damn beautiful. That was all it took. Freyan snapped. She seized Becky by the hips, slammed her back, gently but firmly, against the nearest wall. Becky gasped, but there was no fear in her eyes. Only fire. Challenge. Need. Freyan caged her in, bracing one hand beside Becky's head, the other still anchoring her waist. "Say no," Freyan ground out, her forehead pressed against Becky's, her nose brushing along the bridge of hers. "Say no, Becky," she begged. "Please. Stop me." Becky didn't speak. She just grabbed the front of Freyan's jacket, fisted it tight, and pulled. Their mouths crashed together, messy, desperate, perfect. Freyan groaned into the kiss, low and rough, as Becky kissed her like she was the only thing keeping her alive. Their teeth clashed. Their lips bruised. There was no slow build-up, no hesitation. It was hunger. It was need. Freyan crushed Becky against the wall, her hands everywhere, threading through Becky's hair, gripping her hips, trembling with the force of how badly she wanted this, wanted her. Becky kissed her back just as fiercely, gasping when Freyan's sharp canines accidentally grazed her lip. The tiny flash of pain only seemed to fuel the fire between them. Becky arched against Freyan, and Freyan growled deep in her throat, losing the last shred of control she had left. Her hand slid down Becky's sides, memorizing the shape of he. Becky's hands wandered too, Up Freyan's back, down her arms, mapping her like she never wanted to forget a single inch. Their kisses slowed, deepened, still rough, but edged now with something else. Something terrifying. Something tender. Freyan pulled back, just barely, resting her forehead against Becky's again. They were both panting. Both shaking. "You have no idea what you're doing to me," Freyan whispered, her voice ragged. Becky's answering smile was wild and soft all at once. "Maybe I do." Freyan kissed her again, softer this time, slower. Like a promise. Like an apology. Like a vow. They stayed like that for what felt like forever, tangled in the dark, clinging to each other like lifelines. The infected moaned outside, but the sounds felt far away now. There was only this. Only them. When Freyan finally pulled away, reluctantly, shakily, she cupped Becky's face in both hands, her thumbs stroking gentle patterns over her cheeks. "You're not just human," she said quietly. Becky blinked up at her, wide-eyed but not surprised. "No," Becky whispered. "I'm not." Freyan swallowed hard. "Tell me." Becky hesitated, then took a shaky breath. "I'm different. My mom was human. But my dad was," she broke off, looking away. "A vampire?" Freyan guessed softly. Becky shook her head. "Worse." Freyan froze. Becky closed her eyes, whispering the word like a curse. "A zombie." His confession hung between them, crackling like electricity. Half vampire. Half zombie. Freyan's mind reeled. How had she not seen it? Becky's inhuman speed. The way her mind brushed against Freyan's sometimes, lightly reading her emotions. The way Becky's blood, sweet, rich, alive, had always called to her stronger than anyone else's. Freyan wanted to say something. Anything. But the universe had other plans. The building shuddered, a low, awful groan of splintering wood and snapping metal. Then a crash. The infected were here. And they weren't alone. Something else moved among them, something bigger. Smarter. A mutated, an advanced infected, so rare that even Freyan had only ever fought one before. Its snarl rattled the walls. Its footsteps shook the ground. Becky flinched against her, instinctively pressing closer. Freyan's eyes flashed silver in the dark. A deep growl rumbled from her chest. And something inside her, something ancient and monstrous, woke up. "No one," Freyan snarled, voice dropping to something feral, "touches what's mine." The gate at the front shattered inward. The infected poured through, bodies twisted, drooling, shrieking. Behind them lumbered the mutant, its hulking form blotting out what little light remained. Becky gasped, clutching Freyan's jacket. "Freyan." "I know," Freyan said hoarsely. She turned, putting herself fully between Becky and the oncoming threat. Freyan's body blurred into motion, faster than the eye could follow. Her teeth bared into a snarl. Her claws, hidden usually, extended from her fingertips in long, razor-sharp arcs. She hit the first infected so hard it split in half, its pieces scattering across the floor. Another lunged at her, she caught it midair by the throat, crushed its windpipe with a brutal squeeze, and hurled it into the wall hard enough to leave a blood stain. The mutant roared and charged. Freyan spun, low and vicious, slicing at it in a whirlwind of claws and fangs. The mutant fought back, grabbing Freyan, slamming her against a pillar, but she barely flinched. Her eyes were silver fire now. Her skin gleamed in the dim light, an unnatural, terrible beauty. She was no longer pretending to be human. She was predator. Pure, merciless predator. And every ounce of her bloodlust was focused on one thing: protect Becky. The mutant pinned her briefly, long enough for Becky to scream her name. That sound. That tiny, broken sound. Snapped the last leash on Freyan's control. With a howl that shook the rafters, she exploded upward, driving her claws into the mutant's chest. It shrieked. She ripped it apart with feral strength, tore through its ribcage, its spine, until it collapsed in a heap of gore at her feet. Panting, shaking, blood dripping from her hands, Freyan turned. And saw Becky. standing there, trembling, stunned, eyes widen. It was awe. It was longing. It was trust. Part 6, The Aftermath. Freyan staggered back, the adrenaline burning off in a sick, dizzying rush. "Becky," she rasped. "I'm sorry. Becky crossed the space between them in a heartbeat. She didn't hesitate. She didn't flinch. She threw her arms around Freyan's neck and held on tight. Freyan froze. The blood on her hands. The monster she'd just become. She didn't deserve this. Didn't deserve her. Freyan staggered back, the adrenaline burning off in a sick, dizzying rush. "Becky," she rasped. "I'm sorry. Becky crossed the space between them in a heartbeat. She didn't hesitate. She didn't flinch. She threw her arms around Freyan's neck and held on tight. Freyan froze. The blood on her hands. The monster she'd just become. She didn't deserve this. Didn't deserve her. But Becky, sweet, stubborn, reckless Becky, buried her face against Freyan's throat and whispered. "You came for me." Something shattered inside Freyan, something fragile and buried deep. She wrapped her arms around Becky's waist, lifting her clear off the ground, clinging to her like she was the only real thing left in the world. "I'll always come for you," Freyan whispered hoarsely. "Always." Becky pulled back just enough to meet her gaze. Their faces were inches apart again. Becky was flushed, her pupils blown wide, and there was blood smeared across her cheek from the sea. Freyan lifted one trembling hand to wipe it away, featherlight, careful. Becky caught her wrist, holding her there. Their breathing synced again, wild, ragged. The space between them vibrated. And then Becky kissed her. Not tentative this time. Not careful. It was a kiss that tasted like blood and terror and hope, like survival and want and something bigger than either of them. Freyan kissed her back fiercely, hungrily, one hand tangled in Becky's hair, the other fisting the back of her shirt. They kissed like the world was ending. And maybe it was. But right here, right now, they were alive. And they had each other. They broke apart only when the sound of shuffling footsteps echoed in the distance, slower now, like scavengers sniffing through what remained. Becky panted, her lips tingling, heart pounding. "We have to move," Freyan whispered against her mouth. "There could be more coming." Becky nodded, dazed. Still holding Freyan's hand, she followed as they slipped through a jagged opening in the wall, down a narrow hallway that led beneath the destroyed building. They found a sealed door, rusted and half buried, with emergency markings from when this had once been a military outpost. Freyan heaved it open with inhuman strength, and they tumbled into a cramped bunker. The air was musty. The space barely big enough to lie down in. But it was safe. For now. Freyan collapsed against the wall, breath ragged. She was still bleeding, a gash across her ribs, deep and ugly. "Freyan." Becky dropped beside her, hands shaking. "You're hurt." "I'll heal," Freyan rasped, but her skin was paler than ever, and her veins throbbed dark beneath the surface. "Not fast enough," Becky muttered. "You used too much power back there." "Didn't have a choice," Freyan said softly. "Not with you in danger." Becky froze. Their eyes met again in the shadows. The tension came roaring back, heavier than before. More urgent. Charged. They were pressed close in the tiny space, knees touching, breaths mixing. Becky whispered, "You really meant it, didn't you?" "Eve." "Becky. You've always been." Becky's breath caught. "I tried to stay away," she admitted. "Because I felt it too. Something dark. Something overwhelming." Freyan's voice dropped to a growl. "Then stop fighting it." "I'm not," Becky whispered, inching closer. And just like that, their mouths collided again. This kiss was rougher. Desperate. Freyan gripped Becky's waist and flipped her gently to the floor of the bunker, bracing herself above her. Becky arched into her, gasping softly, and Freyan nearly lost it. "You don't know what you do to me," Freyan whispered into Becky's neck, voice low and aching. "You have no idea how hard it's been not to touch you." Becky tangled her fingers in Freyan's blood-matted hair. Then stopped holding back. Freyan froze. Her breath hitched. The vampire in her, the beast, wanted to take, to claim, to mark Becky in every way she could. But the woman in her, the one who'd loved Becky from afar for years, needed to be sure. "Bex," she murmured, "tell me you want this. That I'm not reading you wrong." Becky cupped her face and looked straight into her eyes. "I've wanted you since you were just my mysterious, cold-eyed professor," she whispered. "But now? After everything? I'm yours, Fran. Completely. Becky. You've always been." Becky's breath caught. "I tried to stay away," she admitted. "Because I felt it too. Something dark. Something overwhelming." Freyan's voice dropped to a growl. Then stopped fighting it. "I'm not," Becky whispered, inching closer. And just like that, their mouths collided again. This kiss was rougher. Desperate. Freyan gripped Becky's waist and flipped her gently to the floor of the bunker, bracing herself above her. Becky arched into her, gasping softly, and Freyan nearly lost it. "You don't know what you do to me," Freyan whispered into Becky's neck, voice low and aching. "You have no idea how hard it's been not to touch you." Becky tangled her fingers in Freyan's blood-matted hair. Then stopped holding back. Freyan froze. Her breath hitched. The vampire in her, the beast, wanted to take, to claim, to mark Becky in every way she could. But the woman in her, the one who'd loved Becky from afar for years, needed to be sure. "Bex," she murmured, "tell me you want this. That I'm not reading you wrong." Becky cupped her face and looked straight into her eyes. "I've wanted you since you were just my mysterious, cold-eyed professor," she whispered. "But now? After everything? I'm yours, Fran. Completely." What followed was less a kiss than an unraveling. A melting of years of tension, rivalry, stolen glances, and barely contained need. Clothes were pushed aside, not torn, not yet, as Freyan moved like she was learning Becky's body by heart, as if this was the last night they'd have. And maybe it was. The apocalypse was outside. Death waited at every turn. But here in the bunker, there was nothing but heat and the sound of Becky's breath catching as Freyan kissed her collarbone. Nothing but the shiver that went down Freyan's spine when Becky whispered her name like a prayer. "I could die tomorrow," Becky said against her lips. Freyan growled softly. "Not if I'm still breathing. You can't protect me forever. Watch me." Their bodies pressed together, hearts slamming like war drums, and for a moment, there was no past, no bloodlines, no monsters. Just Freyan and Becky. Two souls tangled under a dying world. And the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, they could still carve out something worth living for. A distant sound pulled them from their haze, a hollow clang, metal against stone. Freyan jerked upright. Her eyes blazed silver again. "They're close," she said. "Too close." Becky sat up, biting her lip. "We can't fight like that again, Fran. You're still weak." Freyan flexed her fingers, already healing. "I won't let anything happen to you." She turned to the door, body tense, senses sharpening. "And Becky?" Becky placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then let me help," she said, voice steely. "I'm not just some girl you need to protect. I'm one of them too. Part zombie. Part vampire. I have power." Something fierce and admiring lit in her gaze. Then she nodded once. "Then let's hunt." Together, they stepped out into the dark, side by side, blood still drying on their skin, lips swollen from shared heat, ready to fight again. Because whatever hell waited out there, it had no idea who it was dealing with now. Not just a vampire. Not just a hybrid. But two monsters in love. And nothing was more dangerous than that.